Good morning. Welcome to our session today on the Joint Interoperability Test Command Strategic Partner Collaboration to ensure interoperability. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to do an overview of JITC, kind of our mission background. We're going to present some information related to our interoperability efforts, what we're doing in support of the Navy, some standards conformance, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we do test automation and instrumentation in support of those efforts. So our panel this morning, I'm Gordon Bradley. I'm the Technical Director for JITC. We have Robin Murray. He's the Division Chief for the Armed Services Division. We have Captain Collins, Air Force. He's in charge of the radio test facility. He's going to talk about standards conformance. And then we have Sean Kelly of the Strategy, Plans and Policy and Automations Division, where he's going to talk about some of the JITC efforts for, like I said, instrumentation and automation. All right. Come on. All right, so I'm going to build this slide. Being an engineer, I follow the OSI reference model, so I'm going to actually kind of build it from the bottom up. So JITC is unique that we are what's called a Major Range and Test Facility Base, or MRTFB. Under policy, what that means is JITC is deemed a national asset, so we support all the various services in support of test capabilities. So there are, in accordance with CJCSI 3200, there's 24 locations across the U.S. where there are MRTFBs. JITC actually has 2 of them. One is located at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and the other is at Fort Meade in our DISA headquarters. And as an MRTFB, that gives us stipulation as what we have to do for financial regulation, but it also means that we're a reimbursable organization. So we take money from the services, from industry, in order to support all our various test services. And that leads me to the next layer, which is our services. So you can go on JITC's website, you can go to DISA Service Catalog, or what will stand up shortly as DISA Marketplace, and you can see all the various services that JITC provide. So we do everything from support of test automation labs, all the way, if you're familiar with our Unified Capabilities Approved Products list. And I'll go into some of the various roles we have in terms of interoperability, operational testing, developmental testing, and our support to the warfighter. So if you look at that middle band, Joint Interoperability Test Command, most people are familiar with the fact that we do Joint Interoperability Certification. So per policy, DODI 8300-01, JITC is the sole organization within DOD that can issue Joint Interoperability certifications. That means that even though we fall under DISA, we do have some report backs to a variety of different organizations. For our interoperability mission, we work closely with the Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff in order to work on net-ready key performance certifications and issue joint interoperability certifications. Like I said, that is unique to JITC. There's no other organization within DOD that has that role. If you're familiar with the operational testing, there are 6 designated operational test agencies, or what's called OTAs, across DOD. The services each have one. Space Force has one, and JITC is the only non-service operational test agency. So what we end up doing is anywhere where, again, there's kind of jointness, if it deals with information technology or national security systems, what will often happen is JITC will get designated the lead organization. So we'll work with the service OTAs. A good example is our secret and releasable below environment, SABRE, or our mission partner environment, where we're the lead OTA. So we work with the other services in order to do that operational testing. And I have a slide that kind of shows what each of these entail from an effort. So like I said, those are kind of known. Developmental tests, so predominantly for Defense Information Systems Agency, the organization we're standing behind, we do a lot of developmental tests with the projects, programs, and capabilities that DISA is trying to roll out to the services and to other agencies. So we get involved with the program managers, with the projects, and support and do developmental testing in support of technical requirements and the like. The last one that we support is JITC provides a lot of support to the warfighters by going out to exercises, collect data, see how we can inform acquisition decisions. And we also have what we call a 1-800-LET-JITC hotline. So because JITC does a variety of different capability system of systems testing, we have, I think it's in the order of magnitude of 150,000 square foot lab environment. We just added a new capability at our Joint Warfighter Test Center of an additional 40,000 square feet. So we have the capability to mock up different systems across DoD or even system of systems, so that when the warfighter has issues out in the field, they can phone up JITC and say, you tested the system, can you help us out with issues that they found, and we'll mock it up, or we'll deploy people. But again, this is one of our top priorities, obviously, support the warfighter, and that's how we do that. And again, if you go read our mission statement, like I said, we are the sole Joint Interoperability Certification Agency. But like I said, in our predominant area of expertise is information technology and national security systems. All right, so I'll quickly go into the next couple slides, just an overview of what each of these entail. And then, like I said, I'm going to actually turn it over to the folks that are actually executing what we're doing for the, predominantly we're going to show Navy, because this is AFCEA West, and then go into some of our other stuff. So, interoperability, like I said, as noted, we are the sole organization, as I previously mentioned. Again, there's policies that outline our roles and responsibilities that say this is our mission based on designation of authorities through DISA down to our commander, currently 06 Navy Captain Tony Saxon. And like I said, our focus is really certification of IT NSS systems for what's called net-ready key performance parameters. So as programs through the acquisition lifecycle roll out capabilities, they work with joint staff to get approved requirements. JITC validates and verifies that those requirements are in fact met. If they are, we will issue a joint interoperability certification, or what we call a JIC, and as to what was met and potentially even what was not met with conditions. I did mention our role as an operational test agency. Like I said, our predominant one is we will definitely do operational testing for DISA and where we get to the joint services. So if you're familiar with operational testing, this is where we look at things like effectiveness, suitability, cyber survivability. So did we build the right things? We tend to look at interoperability, DT, and did we build it right? Operational testing kind of looks at the fact of, did we actually build the right thing? It may have met requirements, but it doesn't meet the warfighter's need. I did talk a little bit about developmental tests. So this is, again, where we're doing technical performance requirement validation. And again, like I said, predominantly what we do here for our customer is Defense Information Systems Agency. We do a variety of different standards, conformance, and compliance, where we're going to talk a unique area for our radio, but we do 508, we do standards conformance for radio side, things of that nature. So like I said, this supports program managers' ability to get us involved early, so as they're going through the acquisition life cycle, shift left, our ability to be able to go in and, like I said, validate and verify those developmental requirements. I did mention our support to the COCOMs. Like I said, this is one of our top missions. We get about 200 to 300 warfighter calls every year. Like I said, we'll actually prioritize them. We ended up sending people all around the globe to make sure that our brothers, sisters, and folk that are in the warfighter area, that we're actually supporting their capability for systems that are fielded, for which we have expertise. So like I said, we will mock it up in the lab, we will deploy people, but like I said, this is one of our top priorities. And if you're trying to get a hold of us, easy, 1-800-LET-JITC. All right, so like I said, I'm going to turn it over to the folks to talk about some of the things we're doing specifically within each of those arenas. But like I said, in keeping with the theme, like I said, what we're definitely looking at doing is kind of discussing over the next 30 minutes or so, followed by questions, kind of how JITC's mission and what we're doing in support of the warfighter, the acquisition community. How do we help ensure interoperability? And that's everything from interoperability testing itself and back through that, what I call the OSI approach, right from the physical, standards conformance, developmental testing, interoperability testing, support to OT testing, followed by our support, like I said, to the warfighter. So following me, it will be Mr. Robin Murray, and he's going to talk about what we're doing for early engagement and interoperability. Then I'm going to bring up Captain Collins, who's going to talk about standards conformance, last but not least, we're going to talk about some of our efforts for test automation and instrumentation, how we're trying to look at agile, continuous testing, and again, be involved more from a focus perspective so that we can get things on certification efforts faster, get information out to those decision makers in a more rapid manner. So with that, and like I said, I'm going to turn it over. Once we're done, like I said, we'll open up the floor for any questions. All right, Mr. Murray, sir.
Well, good morning. I'm Robert Murray from the Joint Interoperability Test Command for Huachuca Armed Services Division. I'm really excited to be here. I hope you are. There's some great information yesterday in some of the panel sessions. I hope you come away with it. It totally changed my perspective on how we want to talk about our message today. So I'm sure my commander is now wondering what Robin's going to say today, but it's all good stuff, I assure you. So bear with me as we go through this. All right, so some of the themes that were talked about yesterday when we were talking about lessons learned in Ukraine, the Red Sea, places like that, were use of disruptive technologies, getting capabilities to the warfighter faster, saying yes and not saying no. And I'm going to tell you how we're doing that. So I'm going to talk about disruptive testing and the need for that, because we can't continue to do things at the same pace that we have and continue to get information to the warfighters in a timely manner. So pre-program of records, and I said one of the things we talked about is getting to yes. So about a year ago, a couple of the OSD organizations came to JITC and said, hey, we'd really like some assistance from an independent professional test organization to help us evaluate some of these capabilities that we can apply to those disruptive technologies in areas like CJADC2, joint fires networks, and things that are really important right now. And guess what? It wasn't in our primary lane of business. We don't go the things Mr. Bradley talked about, joint interoperability certification, operational testing, developmental testing. That's not pre-program of record stuff. But our commanders empowered us to say yes when a warfighter, a commander, a sub-unified commander comes to us and says, we need help. Our job as testers is to provide information to decision makers. And there's a lot of value in providing that information at a pre-program or record stage. And obviously you can read bullets as well as I can, but when we provide that early operational assessment of those new capabilities, it helps us accelerate the delivery of those capabilities to the warfighters. And that's what we need, is we need to make sure that we're answering the need, because one of the admirals talked about tactics change every 2 weeks now, not every 2 years. We can't take 2 years to deliver those capabilities. Those capabilities are coming through the Office of the Secretary of Defense now to address threats that exist now, and we can't wait 2 years to get that out. So that's why JITC's in a pre-program of record program supporting the OSD. So we're getting that information significantly farther left. That's our job, to provide information to decision makers. We're accelerating that capability development. It's real easy to say, for OSD to say, hey, here's $10 million to try and develop this capability that somebody says they can deliver, that's going to answer a combat need. But it's not a great idea to let that same company determine, hey, OSD, it's good. There needs to be that independent layer to help look at that. So we want to be able to walk away from a capability that might not meet the need of the warfighter at a point where it's early and we can do that, and allow OSD to look at other capabilities that might better meet the need of the warfighter. So how are we doing that? We're getting to combat command exercises and experimentation events, Global information dominance experiments have been key for us to get a look at some of those capabilities in the right environment. Going to the T-Rex events are helping us get a look at those pre-program of record capabilities in the right environment at the right time where it can make a difference to the warfighters who are having to face that emerging threat that's changing every 2 weeks, not every 2 years. So I'm a baseball guy. Like to umpire baseball. Obviously, I don't play anymore. But I'm going to tell you, we hit a home run. We hit a grand slam on our first time out supporting CDAO. They said, please look at this system. It's supposed to help support the Joint Fires Network and get calls for fire from sensors to the shooters faster. That's great. That's important stuff. We have to be able to respond in time inside our adversary's decision cycle. And that's why we got to get things here faster. And here's what we found. We found that it got there, but only 50% of what was sent got there. Now the warfighter says, I got it. It was faster, it's better. And we got to help the decision maker understand. They only got 50% of what was supposed to get to them. Now JITC, in our role, we provided that information back to the decision maker. We didn't make the decision to go forward there with that capability or not to continue to invest in it, but we did let the decision maker know, hey, it's a coin flip. If you put this capability into field today, it's a coin flip on whether those war fighters are going to get the support they need when they need it. And that's where the value comes from, that pre-program of record engagement. So we got to do that. We got to be disruptive and get outside our normal lane, and we got to get that information there faster. Yeah, I'm passionate about this. And did you say I could talk for 30 minutes? I'm glad I got off that slide that fast, quite honestly. So we talked about what we're doing with the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office, building better common operational pictures, but reliable common operational pictures. It can't be half the picture and meet the need of the warfighter. So we were at the Guide 12 event with INDOPACOM, obviously, and Valiant Shield for INDOPACOM. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on in that theater with a very sophisticated peer threat that we need to be able to address. We're supporting Project Convergence Capstone 5 coming up this year, working with some great fellow organizations like the Marine Corps Tactical Systems Support Agency right up the road at Camp Pendleton. We're working with MAR4 PAC, USURE PAC to make sure that they get the information they need based on the requirements that they've defined. Our R&E support continues this year through a number of events. We're going to be at Bala-Catan, Northern Edge, T-Rex events, and that is specifically to look at those emerging capabilities, technology readiness levels, capability levels that can provide the combat commander with the information they need to make the best decision. I think we're going to talk about Navy. I believe this is a Navy town. So let's talk Navy. I love talking Navy. I'm an Army guy. I still love talking Navy. So one of the things that happened 4 years ago, we're meeting with U.S. Southern Command, and they said, hey, JITC, we have a partner who's introducing something called Link 22 into the environment. Can you help us analyze that, see if what can we do with that capability? Can you assess that and see how we can integrate a partner that has a Link 22 capability when the U.S. isn't ready for Link 22 quite yet? And we said, of course. And so the Test Resource Management Center actually agreed and said, hey, that's a great investment. In 2021, that was the #1 quick reaction test capability program, was to build a Link 22 test suite for something the United States won't hit IOC for until 2027. And there was a reason for that. It's because we have to be interoperable with our partners. And that message was resoundingly clear yesterday, that we must be interoperable with our partners. Interoperability is a strategic deterrent. We must have interoperability. And so with that support from the combat commander, say, here's a mission, a validated requirement, and TRMC says, yes, we're going to fund that. We did some things, and we partnered with the Navy. We have to do things like create a master test procedure. I know MELD standards aren't that exciting to most people. They're long, they're onerous, they're thousands, in some cases tens of thousands of pages of technical stuff. But for us to be able to test that and provide information back to the decision maker that's meaningful, we have to build a master test procedure. Gordon talked about we're a major range and test facility based. We provide people, we provide processes, and we provide instrumentation to support getting information to the decision makers. And this is one of those key processes, is we have to have a master test procedure for this new tactical data link standard for Link 22. And we partner with DISA, who helps make that standard, but also with the Navy. We said, hey, we're doing this with Link 22, Navy. Would you like to partner with us? And they said yes. Not a big surprise, right? I talked to Rafi Doyle yesterday. We both happened to go through the GECO pipeline at about the same time and say, hey, Rafi, how can we partner with you? We need to work together. We don't need to invest US dollars in the same thing 2 or 3 or 4 times. We need to work together and make a common investment. So we're working together with NIWC to develop a master test procedure. We're providing training to our partners, not only with NIWC, but right now, today, JITC has boots on ground in Korea testing the Korean equivalent of the Joint Interoperability Test Command, how to do testing for joint range extension. And then later this year, we'll do the same thing for Link 22. And we offer that to all of our service partner test organizations. They shouldn't have to recreate the wheel. TRMC made the investment. We want to make that investment once, and we want to share that investment. We also, in our brand new sparkling Joint Warfighter Test Center that will have the ribbon cut on it next week, we'll have a RF test suite, a radio frequency test suite that will allow us to connect to live Link 22 networks here in San Diego, in Charleston, in Ontario, in Oahu, and across the world. And so we're extending that capability, and we're working with PEO C4I, the Nile Program Office, to make sure that in advance of the United States reaching initial operational capability for Link 22, we understand how to integrate that into a joint warfighting environment. We have one of our great engineers here, Mr. Kelly, one of his support engineers, Mr. Lanu, who developed a fantastic, phenomenal test tool called JDARTS that allowed us to go to RIMPAC 24, where there were 7 nations represented on the Link 22 network, and collect data for Link 22 and report back to each of those combat commanders. And there was 4 combat commanders that were impacted by this. How does Link 22 work in a combined Link 16, Link 22 environment? And guess what? They're compatible. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Talk to my engineers. It's not easy, and they don't like me offering all the great things that they're doing. But it's compatible, and that's a great start. There's work to be done, but it means so much to be able to tell that combat commander, here's what we can do with partners in advance of the United States reaching IOC for Link 22, and we're doing that. Again, we got to be disruptive. We got to look at what's not the need today, but what is the need coming up. And now we're looking at it still 2 years from IOC. So we looked at some great programs, the United States Navy Link Monitoring and Management Tool. We included that. We used our NATO test environment to conduct testing for that. I talked to some folks from industry yesterday about how to take advantage of what we're doing with instrumentation that Mr. Kelly's going to talk about, that they can use capabilities. Like we did testing for the LMMT in our NATO test. There's other programs, IBCS, so we can take advantage of using that NATO test environment to find out how that's integrating with our NATO partners in advance of the system coming to their initial operational capability. So the final thing I want to talk about, some of the great work that our action officers in the Armed Service Division do, certifying Navy programs. If you've ever tried to certify a ship for joint interoperability, trust me, it's not easy. And it's not easy when you have a highly qualified Navy captain as your commander who knows everything about what goes on in that ship, more so than your people do. It's not easy. And we got it done. With the help of our commander, with the help of some extremely talented, hardworking folks, both at Fort Meade, Maryland, and Fort Huachuca, Arizona. You can read the slide. Certification of CVN 78 USS Gerald Ford was the first time we've done a certification for an aircraft carrier. And there was a great amount of information that we were able to deliver to the decision makers about that. And you can see some of the other programs. The only other one I'm going to talk about is the Marine Corps man pads. You know, Marines are a big part of our joint combined force. Talk about something also not easy. How do you certify something that uses Stinger missiles? It's a different type of missile system. Trust me, having been a former Stinger gunner, it's a different way of doing business, but it's just as important. And we work closely with the Marine Corps to get the right information to their decision makers about the man pads. Really excited. We just got a P-8 Naval Flight Officer in to our command. He's going to be joining the team and doing great things for us. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. How am I doing on time, Gordon? I think this is my last slide. This is my get off the stage slide. We got lots more great things to talk about. But how do you get information to the decision makers faster? We are looking at how we can take advantage of things like cloud services and our instrumentation and our data collection suite to put JITC capabilities into maritime operation centers around the world, into air operation centers around the world, into key events, exercise events that recur. Because when I can collect data every time there's a missile shot, whether it's in the Red Sea, whether it's in the Sea of Japan, doesn't really matter. And the combat commander or sub-unified commander comes to us and say, can you analyze that? It's a big deal if we can get information back to them in 24 to 48 hours. We had sub-unified commander over in Korea ask us, how can you help us with anomalies we're seeing on the data and link network? My people said, Robin, do we do that? And my answer was, how do we not do that? How do we not do that if a sub-unified commander says, I have problems, JITC, can you help? And so he's getting a little bonus time in Osan this month, and he sent me pictures of snow covering about 6 inches deep where he's staying. And all I told him was, hey man, that reminds me of those good Korean winters that I know and love. So we're involved in the exercises, and you can read that. There's a lot of things we did in 24. We got more things coming up. It was amazing to me when I talked to folks yesterday. I said, we're in Gray Flag. So, oh yeah, we were just at the IPC, an initial planning conference. How are we going to work together? Hey, we're in Bold Quest. Oh, really? Hey, I'm going to take that back, make sure we can work together on Bold Quest because we're going to be at Bold Quest. So that's part of our plan, is making sure where the warfighter is, JITC is. That's part of that disruption. We've got to be there. We've got to be part of the solution. We've got to figure out how to get to yes. So finally, just another example of what we did for MARFOR Pact. They said, hey, we'd like you to look at some of the CJAD C2 capability. Anybody hear that CJAD C2 thing? It's a little squishy, isn't it, that we're moving forward. We have our partners from Agile Defense who are supporting JITC, and they're here, and they're going to help us get after CJAD C2. But we're developing instrumentation. Mr. Kelly will probably talk a little bit more about some of the great things there. So we took that out, and it's something called Cheetahs, and we went to INDOPACOM, to their all-domain network integration and verification lab, the Anvil, and we said, hey, look at this, how we can integrate our existing JITC instrumentation into this environment to process information, identify where there's issues, and make that available to the people who need that information. It doesn't do any good if that information is not available. And based on that, they said, wow, that's good. Hey, let's do more of that. Let's look at how we can dig deeper into Link 16. I'm a Link 16 guy. I'm a GECO. That stuff really gets me excited. As you can tell, I'm not that hard to get excited about stuff. But this is good stuff. So we're moving forward with CJADC2. We think we have a good plan. We're in year one of a long-term investment into CJADC2. And I think that's all the time I have. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. Captain Collins is going to tell you about some wonderful things going on in his division.
All right, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? That sunshine's pretty intense, so thank you for fighting it. It's definitely warm up here, so I was like, well, I'll make sure I get some good information. So, hello everyone. Captain Collins here. I'm the Chief of Operations for the for the Standards Conformance Test branch. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm the Chief of Operations for the lab as well, radio test facility. So this is just an overview of the three labs that we have. The very high frequency and ultra high frequency is a VULOS lab, our ultra high frequency SATCOM, and then our HF lab. We also have and are looking into emerging waveforms that I'm not listing today. These are just the works that we do currently right now. But we've invested a lot into the emerging waveforms. So I might get a chance to talk on those and touch on those a little bit as we go through the slides, but we'll focus on the primary. So the services that we provide are the standards conformance testing and our interoperability testing. Standards conformance testing is going to be built off of the MIL standards that we built procedures from on those, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. The radio interoperability assessment I wanted to sit down on because I don't think I'll reach back around to it later on. Most of our lab and the talks that I'm going to do for the lab is going to be for the standard conformance testing. But the radio interoperability assessments, what that allows is for mission partners to come in and test their equipment, test their terminals, radios in a lab environment, attenuated lab environment, or we also have the capability of doing over the air. But our ideal is that failure in the field is too late. We provide an opportunity for mission partners to come in and test their radios in an environment and with other radio sets that they plan to see that environment and see how it shakes out. And so it's a great opportunity, and I encourage further use of it. So our VULOS lab, I'm not going to go through and belabor the slide on the actively tested, but these are the MIL standards that we were able to function our test procedures from. Building off Mr. Murray's conversation on pace, going down to the activity trends, this is what we're currently trending right now. We're actually working to increase that trend as the demand for testing increases as well. The primary position for JITC as a whole, and specifically for our radio test facility, is in support of the warfighter. And so the warfighter needs it, we're going to get it to you, and we're going to find the best means to provide that. Currently, the VULOS lab is actually at a lower trend than what I'm about to speak on, which is the UHF lab. However, we have that capability. We continue to invest into it, and so yeah, good stuff. UHF. So this is our baby, and this is me speaking from my experience with the current at the chief of operation position. The procedures that we built off of from the MIL standards that you can see here, and as you can see, the workload is 20 to 25 performance tests per year. So this is where the trends have been going within at least the last 2 years while I've been at the helm of it. That trend still stays pretty constant, and actually the demand is increasing. So it gives us indication of where the RF community is focusing. And speaking on the RF community, going into actually, let me go back. I didn't actually place a slide for HF, but I did want to speak on it. HF is something that's increasing. And so we're building on capabilities for that, increasing our capabilities on HF and also on emergent waveforms, as I mentioned before. I think there'll be opportunity also to add on any further clarifying questions for those. But these are the RF standards. I just wanted to give everyone an opportunity to look at the policies that we're working from. It is also where we find a lot of our mandates are that we're building from for the testing that we do within the radio test facility lab. But yeah, the big thing, and I've always been taught to try and keep it either fast or funny, and specifically keep it factual. So I won't add too much more to that. Look forward to any further questions, clarifying questions, and we can expound on it that way. Thanks much.
Thank you, Kevin Collins. So, Robin kind of built me up on our tool sets and the things that we do for the command. I just kind of look at myself as his easy button. He needs it to work now. He needs the data. He needs to be able to analyze and check across. So our tools that we build for him have to have that, be able to quickly parse the different kind of feeds that we get together. We have to be able to ingest it. We have to be able to compare it, look at it, being able to do all of those interoperability pieces that he wants. The analysis is one of the biggest parts of those tools. So we've been doing this for, I would say, a good 2 decades now, putting this kind of data collection and the tools and the visualizations together. And we continue to evolve this as it moves along, as technology moves along. We're looking at how do we put it in the cloud? How do we get it in the cloud? How do we put it in the DevSecOps tool in the pipeline so we can push it even further to the left from what Robin was talking about earlier? So one of the new things that we're looking at is this Mamba toolkit. And working with TRMC is they're looking at how do you push those tools and that data collection out all the way to the edge of where the warfighter's at, all the COCOMs and all their different areas, and put it out there and have that data available for them to be able to grab and analyze. Well, doing part of that, they're looking across all of the different services to find the best of the best tools, and they bring them in, and then they've asked us as JITC to look at them and start verifying and validating them, and then looking at how do you use this, the online help and everything else, so the warfighters can, if they get it in their hands, how do they work it? How do they use that tool? How do they visualize? Because there's many more things with all of the different kind of sensors now that we're looking at getting. I mean, there's RF sensors across there. There's that kind of networking across the battle space that's going on. How do you visualize that to the warfighter now? All of the different kind of video feeds that you're getting together, how is that getting knitted together so it's a common feed across to the decision makers to say, yes, execute on that target? And how do you get that into the warfighter's hands, the trigger puller, as quickly as possible? So those are the kind of things that we're helping, and I try to support Robin in those endeavors, working faster and better, and more a future look at where the battle space is going. So that's what the Mamba toolkit is looking at doing. The Janet tool, which is kind of how we've been doing it for the last 10 or 20 years, is in there. We're taking that apart. We're making it very much more modular, and adding in the Link 16, the Link 22, all the different kind of different mill standards that we're using for the messages across for all the platforms use. So we're looking at how do we make them smaller, more compact, and give them what they need so they can select what their data is looking like. So the JDarts, as Robin had alluded to, so we took on this task. Robin said, "You can do it. Here, we'll get you some money from TRMC, and you can build us a test tool, and we can get this out and built in no time." So we worked with the Nile office here in San Diego, getting it all together, working with NIWIC, and trying to figure out how do we interface with the LMMT, have the radio so we get it off of the air, and to be able to put it into Robin's new lab that he's having at our ceremony next week in the opening. So his HF antenna is hooking to something and actually able to talk and then push and pull that kind of data, the Link 22 data that we're going across there. So those are kind of the endeavors that we're working at. We don't have the transmit yet, but we're working on it. We've got a future plan on that. We're looking at getting that working. I know NIWIC here is, we're going to start giving them copies of the link of the JDarts here so they can have it in their lab. They can validate everything that they're seeing. So their tools that they're looking at, they can say, yes, that looks good. Or, hey, JITC, you kind of messed up here. And so we can have those arguments on the standards before we get the Air Force involved and we get the Army involved, because every service has kind of their own link standard view of things in the world that they do that. So we kind of have to, and Robin deals with those arguments all the time on how the standard's supposed to look. So this is kind of an OV1 of what our JDarts looks like overall, and the whole thought of how it should work across the battle space with the LMMT or with the network. They're kind of built, the NATO is doing testing now with their own network standard, so we're passing IP traffic and verifying it, much like we do in a lot of the labs for the Link 16 now. So we're moving forward in that endeavor. So working with the Mamba and the different parts within the Navy and handing that the different tests that are going forward. We've collaborated with TRMC to get in there. But as that, we've had that opportunity to show the Navy and U.S. Indio-PACOM what exactly is this data looking like? How do they look at it? We're trying to get it in the hands of the warfighter, because the way that we build things is kind of in an agile process. We got to get feedback. How do we make it better, faster? And we got to let our programmers know, hey, this is what it needs to look like. They need this information. Can you highlight this? Can you change this to a different kind of color or some kind of a blinking interface to let them know that this is important? And how do you quickly pair messages off of things? So they want to know, hey, are we executing the targets right? Do we have that thread, that mission analysis going through? So how can I quickly say what missions have been done? This kind of a mission I want to see, and they want all of those different chain of transactions across the battle space. So they can kind of go back and have that after action report and say, hey, this is how well this went. This is how quickly it went. Because for the warfighter, it's getting that after action report back into the hands of the sensor and the shooter as quickly as possible. That's how they're closing those gaps on this new battle space that Mr. Murray was talking about, that we've seen in several of the different briefs here this week. So this is where we were in 2024, FY24, and in FY25, we're planning on going out. So we're either supporting the different missions, supporting Robin and what he's doing, some of the different efforts across JITC. So this is where we're going to be, and this is the kind of support we're planning on bringing in the future to the Navy and to U.S. INDOPACOM. And that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Bradley. Thank you, sir.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for attending our session. Hopefully you got a little better idea of what JITC does, how we support everything from the services to co-coms. Like I said, what I'll do now is I'll open it up the floor to any questions you may have for any of the panel members. Sir.
Hi, my name is Steve Roberts. I work for MFGS Inc. So I am your counterpart for the Load Runner solution in those test products. I have the honor of working with folks like Steve Lanau and Carter Farthing, supporting the endeavors with Air Force and other groups, going very well. They mentioned, and you mentioned as well, about the cloud migration. Can you give me any more information on that and any timeline for that? I know there's a lot of opportunity, again, with Air Force and Army and Navy as well, with load testing and UFT and the whole life cycle of Software Factory. And to implement that within JEDIC would be a good opportunity for you.
Before I turn it over to for Sean to kind of answer, I mean, definitely, you know, one of the things that we pointed out is as capabilities go into the environment, and obviously cloud is very, very important. We JITC are looking at how we can test in that environment, whether it's everything from unified capabilities products that go into the cloud, how we roll things out to the edge via cloud, our capability to do data collection and analysis. But yours is kind of tool specific, so I'll answer that generically there. Definitely we're looking at those capabilities, but in terms of the tools, I'll let Sean answer as well.
So we're looking at now pushing data. We've kind of got the contract in place where we've got to go through the entire STIGing and IA, all the cyber security that we need to be able to have in place. So we're working through those hurdles right now. As soon as we get through those hurdles, we already have plans. We've got people lined up that want to test in our NIPR and our SIPR, our IL5 and our IL6 cloud environments that we're standing up. So we've got a couple hurdles to go, and I imagine later, probably early this summer, we'll be up and starting to work in the cloud on many of those efforts, working that.
Good, great, thank you. And I think I worked with you before, Mr. Kelly. So yeah, I'm your belly button to press on those capabilities.
All right, thank you.
Contracts. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so I'm not seeing any other questions. So again, Mr. Lanou.
I'm Steve Lanou. I work for Sean Kelly. I work in the instrumentation. I just want to let you know some of our tools are available, like the Janet tool. We have some online tools. So if you want to test some Link 16, or we support over 30 protocols with Janet, that's available free to the DoD and DoD-sponsored contractors. So if you call 1-800-LET-JITC, we could probably help you out. Just wanted to give that little plug there, sir.
Hey, can I add on to that? So, yeah, all of our tools are free. That's been a big portion of it. A lot of the tools are that we support Robin within the Tattle Certification Lab. They're a web service, so all you have to do is call and then be able to connect up through the web service, be able to do early testing, and then we can do it classified or unclassified. And we've supported many different environments working there. I know we've helped Boeing with early development of some of the different AWACS platforms that they're putting forward for our coalition partners, so they can look at it and know that, oh, I can, and basically what we're doing is a lot of the mission thread of analysis. So we're doing R squared, we're doing all of the different things that they need to know early that work, and they're doing it before the platform's built. So they got the software ready, and they know it'll work and pass all of their certifications that they're gonna have in the future, or have a lot better shot, be it at like a 99, 95% solution before it leaves their compound. So go ahead.
So one of the products, ooh, that's loud. One of the products that we didn't spend a lot of time talking about today was our automated test case generator. I talked to several people yesterday who were interested in this little niche area called network-enabled weapons that we use over tactical data links. When we first started doing this process, the first standards conformance test for network-enabled weapons took over 2 years to complete. That's not the speed of need. We went to TRMC and said there's a gap in our test capability. We got funding, gave that to Mr. Kelly and Mr. Lanu and said, hey, we need to automate this process for testing network-enabled weapons, which was over 1,000 pages of technical requirements in MIL Standard 6016. We can do a fully automated test, whether you're a host, whether you're a weapon, or whether you're a third-party source. We're testing the FA and E18 this week for network-enabled weapons in less than half a day using that automated test case generator. It's a powerful tool. It addresses much more than automated, just the network-enabled weapons. But that's the power of technology. We also share that with our partners. That's also been one of the capabilities that we've been able to get, and I'll just touch briefly on this, into the SAP environment to help support some of the testing needs that we can offer instrumentation for. We know it's going to go in and never come back out, but that's one of the ways that we get to the warfighter is through capabilities like that. Thanks.
All right. Again, I want to thank you for showing up. If you're tracking, the DISA booth is right behind the back wall here. JITC is represented there. So if you do have some further questions, by all means, drop by. Our website online is jitc.fhu.disamil. You can visit there to see our services and POCs as to how to get.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to take an opportunity to foot stomp on one service that was mentioned by Mr. Bradley, which is the hotline. The reason I wanted to foot stomp on that one specifically, it's a wonderful service, powerful service that allows mission partners to come in, and even if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, specifically standards performance testing, interoperability testing, the place where you're at in your development, that gives us an opportunity to then aid in whatever, wherever you're at within that process. So I encourage anyone, if you're looking for some type of testing, if you've heard that you need standards performance testing, or if you're not knowing what you need, just reach out to that hotline, and it generally comes to our lab, or it's going to be able to place wherever you need within JITC. JITC has a full spectrum of services that we provide, so that's a great opportunity to aid in whatever way we can. Like I said, the warfighter is our primary goal, so we're trying to help in whatever way we can. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.